everybody, I'm Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, May 1st, 2020. And just like that, we're into May. Today, we're going to continue on in our discussion of the problem of evil. Just a reminder, the problem of evil, at its most basic, is the seeming incoherence of having a good God who is all-powerful, and yet we find evil in the world. Yesterday, we considered the set of replies whereby one of the main claims in the problem of evil are denied. Today, we're going to look at a set of different sort of replies that definitely own up to the problem and think that they can respond to it in productive ways. These are what are called, loosely, the greater good theodicies. There's a variety of these in the literature, but I'm going to mention just two as a way of sampling some of how this might work. The first, and by far the most prominent, is the idea of a soul-making theodicy. This is offered by a man named John Hick, and the idea here is that evil is something necessary in the world in order to bring about the right kinds of character development and virtues that we require as humans in order to develop our souls in the way that God would desire. Now, the easiest way to understand this view is simply the classic idea that what does not kill us makes us stronger. That we need a little bit of difficulty in our lives in order to overcome those difficulties and develop virtues like fortitude, resilience, perseverance, and courage. So maybe God not only allows evil, but potentially even causes evil because this is what puts in place the obstacles by which we are able to develop the sorts of souls and become the sort of people that God would desire. There's a lot to recommend this view. Ultimately, the problem with it, of course, is that it seems to assume that God, in infinite wisdom, couldn't figure out some other way to develop these virtues except by instigating such difficulty in our lives. Were a parent intentionally to make such difficulty for their children, it seems like that would be cause to prosecute them for negligence. Why would we expect something different of God? It seems like God can do better than to require evil in order to teach us a lesson. The second view that we might consider in this greater good conception is one called the felix culpa. And what this means is a Latin term for the fortunate fall. And this is the idea, in particular within a Christian tradition, that sin and moral error are things that humans engaged in, and it turns out that this is not just negative, but it is wonderful. This is actually a great thing because it provided the occasion for God, internal to the Christian story, to have to step in and then provide the salvation story that we are familiar with within Orthodox Christianity. Because of sin, salvation becomes necessary. This is then a glorious good news. This is the gospel narrative of Christ's incarnation. Also, a lot to recommend this. Problem with it is that it again seems to assume that God is limited by the idea of what is possible relative to salvation. That God would need us to screw up in order to be able to step in and provide divine love and grace seems already to assume a God that might be limited in ways that are problematic. With these greater good theodicies, the backdrop is an infinitely wise God, a God who is perfect in intention and knows how everything will turn out, and as a result of this, God instigates evil or allows evil in ways that then provide for us opportunities to overcome that evil and grow as people. If God really is as perfect as these accounts would assume, then it seems like God could have created a world that didn't require such suffering to bring about such joy. Tomorrow, we'll consider a final strategy before turning to a sort of anti-strategy. The next day, tomorrow we'll consider the famous free will defense, which is perhaps the most prominent reply to the problem of evil and articulated by a variety of philosophers. So we'll look at that tomorrow and consider how maybe it might offer a better way forward. Thanks again, as always, for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow, unless a piano falls on our heads.